Hello, welcome to the Skate Podcast, your source for all good things in the universe of movies. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Josh. Join us to explore the vast reaches of science fiction, fantasy, action, adventure,
and beyond. Okay, so today is today is a special episode.
Why is that?
The reason that this one is special today is because it is our second request episode.
Oh, is this requested?
Yeah, this one's requested by Scott. Thanks, Scotty.
I didn't know that. I don't know Scott either. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, Scott requested The Abyss.
Scott. Who's Scott?
Before we get to that, a couple things to mention.
Oh.
Thanks, Scott. So we'd like to, give Mark another shout out here. He did our artwork, and also now he's kind of managing our Twitter for us since we can't figure it out. And he's really good at it. So thank you, Mark.
Mark. Sniper Marky T.
Word.
That's what I call him.
Also, we went and we saw, speaking of Mark, we went and saw with him Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan in theaters last weekend.
35th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mark, our friend Tim, Dave, me and you. Is that everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Fathom event. If you don't know what that is, you should check them out. They broadcast stuff out to theaters across the nation. It's usually niche-y stuff. I've seen several Star Trek Fathom events. I've also seen Mystery Science Theater and Riff Track Fathom events.
Wait, so you're saying they didn't, actually project it there? Like it was...
It may have been projected there. Sometimes they're live events, though.
Okay.
They also, they'll re-release older movies in the theater so people get a chance to see them on the big screen. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that they were doing the... in front of it, instead of the 15 minutes of preview, there was a interview with William Shatner. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and one of the guys from Screen Junkies was on there.
I've seen that guy so many times, and I can't think of his name. He's the guy with the gray hair that always pulls out, specific dates.
I think his name is Scott.
Oh, Scott Mans? Is that his name?
I think so.
We
should probably look the stuff up ahead of time, but,
Nobody's listening.
Yeah, a more prepared podcast.
A better
That's
podcast
not us.
Might do that.
Yeah, a better podcast would do it. Yeah, it was pretty cool. The interview was fun.
Yeah, that was cool. It would have been kind of cool to see him and Nick Meyer, but maybe that's asking for too much. But I thought that would have been kind of cool to at least have those two.
It's, William Shatner, for his age, looks remarkably well. He's still sharp. He's quick.
Yeah. He's a pretty active guy. He's, into the horse
he's never
riding,
slowed
and
down.
He writes or co-writes and...
Isn't he on, Boston Legal or something like that?
He was. I don't think that show's on anymore, but he was on it, yeah.
I don't watch a lot of TV, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it sounded like he's still busy. He was writing a movie.
He records, his audiobooks for the Star Trek books he does and different things, and yeah.
That's the life of a rocket man, I guess.
Yeah.
So, how'd you enjoy watching the movie at the theater?
That part was great. I wish they wouldn't have done the director's cut. And I was also a little disappointed. I was hoping the picture would be a little cleaner. Did it seem a little...
It looked good to me.
Okay. I'm not saying it looked terrible. I just would have preferred a little bit cleaner of a...
Yeah, sometimes with the older movies, it's a little bit harder to clean them up.
But yeah, my biggest beef was the fact that it was the director's cut.
What year did it come out?
82.
All right. I hadn't seen it in a long time. I know that you and Dave had recorded an episode about it.
So, give us your little review on Star Trek 2.
Yeah, it's often referred to as the best of the Star Trek movies. That's even including the new cast from Next Generation.
Right. I've heard some people say they think 4. I've seen some top 10 or, top whatever list in Star Trek 4 being considered number 1. But most of the time, it's Star Trek 2.
Well, we'll be getting to that one sooner or later.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen all of the older ones. Yeah. I've watched the next gen ones more, but
okay.
Yeah, going back and watching it was cool. I think that even if you're not a Star Trek nerd and you don't know a whole lot about Star Trek, you can enjoy Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan without knowing a whole lot about what's going on already.
Well, Tim said he never saw it.
Yeah, how did Tim like it?
I thought he said he liked it.
Okay, yeah. So, if you're not a Star Trek nerd and you haven't watched a lot of Star Trek and you want to check it out, don't feel like you have to know everything about Star Trek to see it.
Right, and this movie is a direct sequel from the original series episode Space Seed.
Right, and you don't need to see that either.
And yeah, I was going to say, if you want to watch it, it's season 1, Space Seed. You can check it out. But they do a good enough job telling you what happened in that episode so that you know what's going on.
The movie is really well done. The story is really good. The way they set everything up is just a really good story. The acting is all great. Khan is a good villain, although, some of his lines, he seemed a little hammy. But they're meant to be hammy in a way.
I've never thought that. Maybe it's because I've grown up on it so much. I've never taken it for anything.
Yeah, what's his name?
Oh, Khan Ninian Soon or something?
The actor.
Oh, Ricardo Montalban.
Ricardo Montalban is like one of those old school actors, back from the golden days of Hollywood. It feels like his acting style, acting, Shakespearean type of guy. And so when he delivers a line that could come off as cheesy, it does come off as cheesy, but like in a serious actor type of way. Like, he's really taking his job serious. He's super into the part.
Well, I guess it's been noted that Nicholas Meyer, when he talked about it, he said when he would direct him, he said Ricardo would always go very big.
Dramatic.
And he said he told him, at one point, you're giving away everything. You're showing your top. And he said, we need to be afraid of you, and the audience needs to not know how crazy, how mad, how vengeful he'll be.
So at least at the beginning, you got to keep it a little subtle.
Slow build, and then, just as it keeps going, just get bigger and bigger and bigger. But if you start here, well, you got nowhere else to go.
And that is how the movie went, too. Like, it started off with him being, not too insane and not too over the top. And then, like, at the end of the movie, every line he gives is great.
Yeah. I love those lines.
Yeah.
He tasked me. He tasked me and I shall have him.
Yeah. It was a good movie. I did think that it was kind of funny that Khan's second in command looked a lot like, what's his face?
Yeah, you said that outside of the theater. Benedict Cumberbatch or whatever his name is?
Benedict Cumberbatch, who played Khan in the J.J. Abrams.
I mean, I guess I can kind of see it. I would never have thought that on my own, though. But I'm not saying you're wrong.
But you're wrong. It didn't occur to me whenever I watched it, but William Shatner, before the movie started, in that interview, he said that he felt kind of bummed out that he didn't get to actually work with Ricardo.
Yeah, because he was doing T.J. Hooker, and I'm not sure if Ricardo was doing Fantasy Island by that point, but the scheduling.
And on top of that, none of their scenes actually required them to be in the same room.
Right, it was all done through the communicator or the view screen.
And it really does feel like more of a submarine type movie, like they mentioned that. Yeah,
that was the first movie they started really adding that Starfleet is kind of like a military organization, that it's almost like naval. The ships are like submarines. It's an ocean of space.
So everybody that likes Next Generation has Meyer to thank for that.
Oh, I believe so. I believe, he kind of reinvented the wheel there in a lot of ways,
Now, I feel like, this shouldn't be a shock to anybody that's watched Star Trek. I feel like they've rehashed the hiding in a nebula little plot that they had going on.
Yeah, I guess.
I feel like that happened again in either Voyager or Next Gen at some point.
Probably.
Anyway, what else were we going to talk about? Oh, yes. You saw The Mummy, finally, starring everybody's favorite, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah. Tom Cruise and Russell Crowe.
Tell me how wonderful this movie was, Josh.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't as terrible as maybe it's because I heard that it was terrible that I was expecting the worst.
You set the bar really low.
Right. So it was passable. It was fine for the hour and a half or whatever it was that me and Brittany watched it. It I was hoping it could be better, because I thought this whole idea of the dark universe of having the Frankenstein, Dracula, werewolf, Wolfman, I should say, Jekyll and Hyde, Invisible Man, Van Helsing, Hunchback, and I think the Phantom of the Opera are all ones they hope to do solo movies, then hook them all up. I thought that idea was very cool, so it was kind of a bummer it wasn't better. But there was also, and it was just okay. It was all right.
One of the worries I had, I haven't seen it yet. One of the worries I had is it looked like the scope of the movie was way too big, like a worldwide threat.
No, it's mostly just taking place in England.
So just mostly England, okay.
Yeah, London, actually.
I like the stories to be a little bit smaller, and when you get to your climax of where all these stories are headed, that's when it should be a bigger plot.
Yeah.
And then you could go back down small and restart again if you want to keep going. Marvel's a little bit guilty of this. A few of their plots have been a little too worldwide, the Ultron thing.
Yeah.
I I want it to be mostly contained to like an area.
Yeah, I think
Until
that's
you
why
get to
Ant-Man was
Thanos.
a little bit refreshing.
Yeah, Ant-Man was a
much
smaller story,
yeah.
no pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ant-Man was more refreshing in that way. That's one of my problems with, like, Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you started off with basically the world getting destroyed.
Right.
Where do you go from there? Like, why would it go from there to him stopping a bank robber or something like that?
For sure.
By the way, you need to check out Spider-Man, because that's one of the, like, if you like that about Ant-Man, Spider-Man is, like, the same way. Like, it's amazing. He starts off fighting, amazing, no pun intended, fighting, like, bank robbers and stuff. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
At least a couple of those before he fights the villain, you know?
Yeah.
So, Mummy, do you feel like they're going to keep going with it, or
I think they're going to try to. I think they have such high hopes of doing what Marvel's doing. They're going to try to pick up the pieces and try to do better the second time around. Hopefully they can do it. Again, it wasn't trash, but even Brittany was like, it was just kind of, it was
real quick. Anything that you thought was cool or you really liked?
It was kind of cool, I guess, the way she regenerated. Are you a fan of the Brendan Fraser one?
I won't say I'm a fan.
Okay, I mean,
I've seen at least 2 of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, like, how Imhotep has to regain his, body parts. Like,
yeah.
I mean, it was kind of a different way on that. It almost had a zombie movie feel to it a little bit.
Okay.
I could tell you, but I don't know if you care.
I still think I'll check it out at some point, so I'll wait. If anybody's interested, you can look for, on YouTube, Red Letter Media, and they do, reviews every so often of different movies, and their review show is called Half in the Bag. It has a running storyline, but you don't really need to worry about that. It's not important. So they have an episode talking about The Mummy, and one of the things that they talk about is how when they saw it, they really felt like the movie was made for overseas audiences. That there were these long exposition scenes where people were doing, like, voiceovers and stuff.
For the newest one?
Yeah, for the one that you watched.
Okay.
And they felt like that was so they can cut out the English and they can explain to people in foreign lands, particularly China, what was going on.
Oh.
And they felt like the movie kind of suffered because of that.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just to turn your brain off, just enjoy it for what it was. Movie for me,
I wasn't expecting much out of it. One of the things that really bothered me about this movie, wasn't even about the movie. It was about people talking about the movie. Because I would go on Facebook and I would see ads for, The Mummy, And I'd look at the trailer and I'd be like, that just, I don't know about that. And I'd go and see what other people are saying. Like, I want the original with Brendan Fraser. And I'm like, the original was 1939.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
And didn't they do, what's those 2, like, comedian guys from back in the day?
Oh, Abbott and Costello?
Yeah, they meet the mummy.
Yeah.
There's various versions of it.
Yeah, so just, it really annoyed me when people kept referring to Brendan Fraser as the original.
Yeah.
I guess that's just me being a little bit of a film snob or something, but I'd always try and correct them. I'm like, so what was your favorite part of the Boris Karloff movie? Well, do you want to get into the episode? You got some trivia?
No.
All right, well, that was it. Check back next time where we won't give you a review on something.
Today is episode 34. We're talking about The Abyss.
Today is a good day to be episode 34. Coupla.
All right. We're going to be talking about The Abyss from 1989. Currently holds a 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was written and directed by James Cameron. It stars Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastroianni, and Michael Biehn.
Yes.
Yeah. James Cameron came up with the idea when he was 17 years old. He went to a science fiction lecture, and they were talking about the ideal of oxygenated liquid. Apparently that's a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
That somebody has actually been able to breathe.
I was curious about that.
I didn't
started
know that.
looking into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real thing. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. The movie Criminal Law used the same quote at the beginning. Therefore, the theatrical version of this movie had to cut that out, but it was restored in the director's cut, which is
when you look into the abyss, sometimes there's something looking back or whatever.
Ed Harris and Michael Biehn were both also in The Rock. This
with
movie,
reversed roles.
Yeah. This movie had a $70 million budget. James Cameron originally wanted Jamie Lee Curtis to play Lindsay, but that didn't work out. But later she went on to star in True Lies. The wires during the disarming scene were actually both the same color. So to make sure that we understood how difficult that was for him.
I was trying so hard to see any difference.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that sucks.
Cameron almost drowned when his suit malfunctioned. This is one of the first films to use Photoshop. The American Humane Association deemed it unacceptable because the rats were actually submersed.
Yeah, I have
Cameron
some notes on
claims
that,
that none of them were died. However, I did read something that they said the reason they had to cut to the human actors was because the rats pooped because they were so afraid. Mm-hmm. Which that does seem kind of. I mean, I feel bad for them on that, but
yeah,
we'll talk more about that later. Both Cameron and many of the cast have said this was one of the worst productions they ever worked on. Cameron's brother plays the dead crewman that they find in the submarine. He had to hold his breath under 15 feet of water and allow a crab to come out of his mouth.
That was real?
Yeah. The water tanks that they used had so much chlorine in them to make sure that there was no bacteria and stuff that some of the crew's hair turned white. Most of the underwater filming took place in the world's largest tank set. Mary Elizabeth held her breath during the scene where she was drugged back. Harris punched Cameron in the face after he almost drowned, and he has refused to talk about the movie for many years. Michael Biehn has been bitten on the arm in every Cameron movie he's been a part of, which includes Terminator and Aliens.
Bitten on the arm?
Yeah. At one point, I can't remember who, but yeah, he does get bit on the arm in this movie.
That's funny.
And I know Sarah Connor bites him in Terminator, and I already forgot what the other movie was. Aliens. I don't know, someone bites him on. Oh, I think the little girl, Newt. I think she bites him on the arm when they try to get her. Anyway.
Yeah.
Both Ed Harris and Mary Elizabeth suffered emotional breakdowns.
Really?
Yeah. I was reading how they said at one point when Ed Harris was driving back after a long shoot, he pulled over and started crying because he almost drowned, and they said that it was like 70-hour work weeks and just ridiculous.
I can imagine that this movie would have been like hell for everybody involved.
The scenes where the aliens are shown were actually cut from the theatrical cut by Cameron. The movie, I guess, was so long that the studio considered it a risk to have such a long movie, so he actually on his own cut the alien shots, and the studio wanted them to be kept, so I guess that has only been seen since the director's cut came out, which I'm not sure exactly when they released the director's cut. Do you know?
I don't know. I think I've only ever seen the director's cut, though, from what I've heard about it.
And Jeff Bridges and Mel Gibson were both considered for the role of Bud.
Well, the cast is really good. I'm glad they made their choices.
No, for sure. I could see Jeff Bridges more than Mel Gibson, though, myself, as Bud.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges, I think, can probably pull off that blue-collar type of guy. Actually,
for sure.
If I think back, like, Mel Gibson's a great actor.
No, yeah.
But I think Jeff Bridges might be a little bit better.
Yeah.
But no, I liked Ed Harris in the role. One of my favorite parts about this movie is, like, everybody on the cast seems to be great. Mm-hmm. The acting is all really good. The relationships feel real. Mm-hmm. I guess the only complaint that I would have about, like, the cast is they fall into a little trope that I hate when movies do this, where everybody has a nickname.
Oh.
That just drives me nuts because, I don't know, maybe it's like that.
What were all the nicknames? Let's see.
There's, like, Hippie. I had a couple of them written down. Bud was a nickname. Bud, Catfish, Hippie, Jammer. Like, everybody had a nickname.
Okay, you know what's funny? Is the only one I remember is Jammer. And I remember when I first saw him, I was like, did I miss him earlier in the movie? I don't remember seeing him. Do you remember when they were, like, locked in that room? And then the opens and it's that guy?
Yeah.
Where was he? Was he?
He's the guy that he was at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
He's a huge, tall guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's the biggest person in the movie for sure.
Yeah.
I wonder how tall that actor is. He's well over 6 feet. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. He went with them when they went into the submarine to recover to check things out or whatever, to recover some bombs. He's the one that when he saw the guy sitting in the water and the crab came out of his mouth, that started freaking out and he knocked himself out. And then they had to put him, like, in a sick bay, basically, and he was just out cold for half the movie.
Huh.
So when he shows up later, he had just woken up.
Okay.
What's your experience with this movie before we rewatched it here?
I've only seen this movie one time before it was a televised version. Mm-hmm. And
I've watched it a lot on TV. It would come on all the time. I think on the Sci-Fi Channel probably. I would see it all the time. And I fell in love with the movie when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I remember showing it to friends. Like, I'd go out and rent it. and we'd watch it.
Okay.
I had a couple of friends that had never seen it before. They were more like outdoor kids. I was more of an indoor kid.
Yeah.
So it was always fun trying to show them stuff I was into, and it kept their attention the whole time.
Yeah.
One of the things about this movie is it's so long.
Yeah, I guess it's a half hour shorter, the theatrical cut.
Yeah, I had heard that the theatrical version actually didn't do as well. Like, it got some critical poo-poos.
Mm-hmm.
And once people saw the director's cut, they're like, it's amazing what a director's cut can do. It totally changes the way I see the movie.
Okay.
So I've never seen a short version of this movie, but it is long. It's over 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I wish there's something they could do to kind of cut it down a little bit. There's one scene where I feel like they could have cut.
Okay.
And that's the underwater sub chase.
Okay.
Between the Navy SEAL and
Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah, Mary Elizabeth.
Lindsay, I think.
Yep, Lindsay. I feel like that maybe could have been a little bit shorter, but everything else just seems kind of necessary to the story.
Okay.
And they do a lot of this in the movie where, like, they'll set something up for later. Like, even the ring, the wedding ring.
Oh, yeah.
Comes into play later, and, like, they do that. They do a lot of callbacks in this movie, which is kind of cool. Like, not a lot of people do that now, or they do it in a more obvious way.
Right. Well, yeah, the ring saves him when the door goes to shut.
Right. So, Bud and
Lindsay
are
going through a divorce.
Yeah, they're working through the final steps of a divorce.
Yeah.
She's seeing somebody else. She designed this rig that they're on. So
Right.
I guess this is a little synopsis. It's an underwater oil rig, and it's experimental. It had never been done before. She had designed it. Ed Harris's character was working on it, and he had a crew with him. They're all blue-collar, normal people. So they're deep underwater. This thing is like has a hose, like an umbilical cord, up to a ship. And I imagine that's how they moved it around, too.
Was it a ship, or was it like almost like above water?
I think it was actually the ship where Chris Elliott was on.
Yes.
Chris Elliott, what do you think of him being in this movie?
That was actually one of my points, was how funny it was to just see him in this movie.
Wasn't a funny role.
No. Him and Ken Jenkins, I noticed them right away.
Yeah, they, I mean, I don't have any problems with him being in the movie. It kind of sticks out a little. Like, he's a more comedic actor. You know him from funnier stuff.
Yeah.
And he's just in there. I don't know if
I usually think of him. I know he was obviously in Cabin Boy.
Yeah.
I mostly know him as Amy's brother.
Everybody Loves Raymond.
Raymond, which we're both big fans of.
Yeah, which was played by Paul Rubens first.
Yes, and then I also know he was in Kingpin, and I'm sure he was in other stuff, but those are the things that stick out to me. He had a very small part in Kingpin.
I'm trying to think back now. Do you remember?
I will give you $1 million.
Oh yeah,
to sleep with your friend here.
The indecent proposal spoof.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I don't have any problems with Chris Elliott. I don't know why he doesn't seem like a bigger actor.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, he used to do chip commercials or something.
Well, a lot of the Saturday Night Live guys have been in commercials.
Yeah.
So I remember. I always want to call him the critic.
Oh, dang it. Not
Lovitz. John Lovitz
John
used to be the
Lovitz,
Subway guy.
Really?
I think before Jared.
Oh.
I
didn't know
or maybe they had a couple of different campaigns going on. Anyway, let's get back to this movie. So, yeah, the way that I imagine that they moved this rig around is it had the umbilical cord going up to the ship where Chris Elliott was. And they had some kind of hoist that would lift it. And then they used the submarines to kind of tow it around and then set it down somewhere.
So what were they drilling for or mining? Oil? So wouldn't you think they'd have to have some kind of drill that's going into the ocean floor?
They probably did. They just never showed it.
Okay.
And it was all experimental. Maybe they were just showing that people could be down there.
Okay.
Maybe they were just doing like surveys or something too.
Could be, yeah.
The movie actually opens up with the submarine though.
Mm-hmm.
And the submarine's getting some strange readings.
Yeah, very Star Trek.
Yeah, something's basically buzzing the ship.
Yeah.
And I think it's an accident. I don't think it was on purpose.
No, yeah, I don't
but
think
because
it
nuclear
caused
submarine,
their instruments to go down. There happened to be like a
right.
wall.
Yeah, something swims by this submarine so fast that the wake causes everything to go haywire. The submarine eventually loses stability. Water starts coming in, and it's over.
Right, but I don't think it was just the wake. I think that's when they started experiencing turbulence. But anytime the thing comes near anything, it always shuts down.
Yeah, and they lost control right near a huge cliff, a rock.
Right.
So they smash into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's over for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I've had dreams where I've been trapped underwater, and That's just like the worst thing.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a worse way to go. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's worse ways to go, but that's just terrible.
Well, apparently the cast had some close calls with
Yeah,
that.
I was wondering about that. I know that Waterworld was extremely expensive because all the water involved.
I remember that. I
And,
remember hearing about that. I never saw it.
I was surprised when you said that this was only $70 million. Considering, too, like, when this movie came out, I don't think that maybe the special effects hold up as much today.
No, but they were unbelievable.
They're still okay today.
No, yeah.
But when it came out, it was beyond belief, basically, all the stuff that they did.
The water...
Especially the water tentacle, yeah.
Yeah. What was... Yeah, Well, I was going to say, because no one would have saw the actual aliens, apparently, in the theatrical cut, because apparently they weren't there.
That's so weird, because that's one of the coolest parts.
Their submarines or their drones were kind of cool looking, you know.
Yeah, the aliens look cool. There was one that looked like an angel. They even made a joke about it.
Yeah, how did Jammer see it? Because remember, he was saying something about an angel.
He was sort of freaking out after he saw the crab
Mm-hmm.
come out of the dude's mouth. And then, he was, like, looking for a way out. He wanted to get out of the submarine. And as he was doing that, his equipment starts to fail. And then you see, like, the glow of a light. And he turns around, and he saw it. But they didn't show you what he was seeing.
Right, okay.
And he looked at it for a minute, and then he started freaking out again, turned around, hit his stuff, and passed out.
Okay.
Yeah, and he said, I saw that angel. I don't remember anything after that. And they kind of like, oh, okay, well, tell us about it later.
Yeah.
Like, all this weird stuff is going on down there, and they just kind of dismiss his story.
Yeah.
It was comedic. So, yeah, the submarine goes down. They're down there on this oil rig. The government comes in. They need to recover the stuff off the submarine. It's in the middle of the Cold War. Well, towards the end, really. But they didn't know that.
Yeah.
The Cold War's going on. They're afraid, the Russians are going to come in and basically salvage the nuclear arms off of this submarine and get who knows whatever else.
I thought that was a really interesting story. I almost think that story could be...
It almost seems like, it could have been a movie without the aliens.
Yeah.
In some ways, that may have been better. We'll go on later.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's too deep and in a bad spot because there's a hurricane coming too. So they don't have a lot of time. It's super deep. These guys are already down there. The government commissions them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we'll give you 3 times your normal pay. You got to go and help us get this stuff. We're going to send some SEALs down. Yeah. And that's when they send Lieutenant Coffee down there.
Yep.
Who I thought he's a terrific bad guy. He was great in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. He was scary.
And he's like a realistic bad guy. Like, he isn't nuts at first.
Yeah.
He may have been a little bit of a jerk at first, but he wasn't even that much of a jerk. They just explained it by him getting some kind of having a problem.
The shakes.
There. Yeah.
But was it just that did it to him, or was it just his paranoia?
Well, I think it was a couple things. One,
wow. Paranoia. I can't say it.
Paranoia.
Wow, what is wrong with me?
Yeah, he was on a critical mission.
Okay.
He doesn't want to let civilians boss him around.
Right.
He may have already been a little bit of a jerk, which, I can understand anybody in the military having a hard side.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't seem too bad at first. He was kind of joking around with Lindsay at first. But they talked about HPNS, high pressure nervous syndrome or something.
Mm-hmm.
And, 1 in 70 people can't handle it. You never know who it's going to affect, and it'll start to make you paranoid.
Right.
So they kind of explain what's going to happen to him later, and they show him shaking.
Okay.
So you know it's coming. I meant to look that up, too, to make sure that was a real thing. It probably is. One of the things...
Everything in the movies is real.
One of the things that we were talking about, we were surprised was real, was breathing liquid.
Yeah.
So I looked up a little more into that, and yeah, apparently it's a real thing. It's still in its experimental phase. And apparently, when they dipped those rats in liquid, it was actually liquid oxygen and stuff. So I guess they would have been fine.
Right, but they're freaking out about it. Like,
yeah, you know what's funny is I remember when I watched this on TV, actually seeing the rat submerged in the water, gasping for air, but it's underwater, so it can't, and I've always felt so bad for it.
Mm-hmm.
In the version we watched, that wasn't there. It cut, and it never showed the rat underwater.
It didn't?
Nope.
I thought they did.
Nope. They showed him put it in the water, and then they cut, and then everything from there is a reaction from the humans as to what's happening to the rat. They just don't show you the rat again. So apparently this is a real thing. I guess it has some applications in real life if they can get it to work. A couple of things they mentioned were space travel and deep sea diving. But the number one thing, the most realistic goal that they have is medical uses, particularly with premature babies. So
what's the advantage of having liquid air, essentially?
I would imagine that there's less pressure on the lungs and cause a lot less problems with the human body once you get deep down enough.
Okay. So it would be going the entire suit?
I don't know.
Or just like the headpiece?
From what I understand, it's not fully implemented yet, although I guess they have done it. It was hard to find a lot of information about it, but I didn't look too hard either. So if anybody wants to look that up, it's called Fluid Breathing System, if you're interested in the science of that. It seems pretty interesting.
Nobody cares.
Oh.
What'd you think of the intro music?
I like it.
I thought it was kind of creepy.
Do you know who did the score?
I don't. I should, but I don't. But I thought it was pretty interesting. Like, it was creepy.
I'm reaching for a Swedish fish in the middle of your comment. All right, go ahead.
How fitting, fish. No, the intro music was really creepy for like a few seconds, and then they totally shifted gears on you. Did you notice that? I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's another one of those movies that has a little bit of everything in it, a little bit of action, a little bit of science fiction. Well, mostly science fiction. A little bit of drama and a little bit of horror in it too, in a way.
Yeah.
Although it really wasn't a horror movie, it has frightening scenes in it for sure.
Like what?
Like the aliens at first, you don't know what's going on with them. The tentacle could be scary to some people, like, holy crap. I think particularly the scene that's the scariest really is where Lindsay drowns.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I first saw it, because they drug it out so much, like, that you think she's actually died, and just how he just keeps going with it, and they're basically saying, she's gone, and he just keeps trying and keep trying. It really does. I remember Brittany said, like, man, if they didn't bring her back, I was going to say, that's a long scene to have,
Yeah, they dragged that one out pretty good. I had read, one of the things critics were complaining about was, like, how long it took for her to come back. Oh, she can just come back to life. But they kind of explain it while she's in the sub. She's like, it's so cold that basically my body's going to stop anyway. So we'll have the time to bring me back. Just do it. So they kind of explain it a little bit. I don't really have a problem with the length of that. It adds a lot of drama. And It's kind of a touching scene, too. Like, you feel really bad for Ed Harris. He's still in love with his wife.
Right.
As much, like, have a love-hate thing going on. She still cares for him, too, as much as she pretends not to.
Right.
Her character was great. Everybody hated her, in a way, for the most part. I don't know if they hated her, but nobody liked her.
Right.
Except for Ed Harris, who didn't like her either. So, she played that role really well. I don't think I've seen that actress in a lot of other things.
I know she was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I know that, but that's about it.
I think when I looked her up, she does, like, a lot of stage work. I like the scene where basically they get in an argument when she first gets down there, and he throws his ring off into the toilet. The water is so blue. I guess that's the thing.
I think they use that on airplanes a lot.
Yeah.
The blue liquid.
I wonder why they would need it down there, or what it is. Maybe somebody just cleaned it. I don't know. Yeah. But I always love that scene where, like, he throws his ring off into the toilet and leaves. The camera never leaves the bathroom.
Right,
he opens the door back
thing,
up.
Yeah. That's kind of cool. Did you feel that this movie kind of, in a way, has a similar vibe to Aliens?
Absolutely. That was actually going to be one of the points.
You got a blue-collar, run-of-the-mill, and that, what were they in Aliens? They were...
I think in Aliens they were Marines at that point. But
no,
in Alien, they were miners, right?
Okay. So, yeah, they were miners, but basically you just got regular people, and then you got, like, a special forces team that comes in, basically, to call the shots.
Everybody has nicknames.
It's a very claustrophobic.
It is very claustrophobic.
Like, do you notice when he was when they were following him around, like, he was practically hunched over the whole time?
Yeah. The set reminded me a lot of the Alien and Alien sets.
Yeah.
The way the crew interacted with each other, just even the fact that they were the blue-collar workers, like you're saying, like... Alien, like, you think they could have been, like, scientists or Marines, but no, they chose to go with a more relatable group of people. Yeah. Just some people doing their job, out in the middle of nowhere. And that was really what was happening here, too. There are a few other things, too, like, obviously a couple of the actors have been reused over and over again.
I guess that is a big thing for Cameron, but they said that besides Michael Biehn, no one's ever worked with him again.
Really?
In this movie, some of the reporters that you see when they're reporting on the big tidal wave, some of those people have become people he uses again. But Michael Biehn's the only one that he's worked with more than once. Like,
I noticed when I was looking up the cast that a few of them had been in other movies together. Like Ed Harris and Michael Biehn being in The Rock.
Mm-hmm. Briefly, very briefly.
Yeah, with the reversed roles, I think that's great too. I noticed a couple of them were in Chud together. Have you ever seen Chud?
Once.
Cannibalistic Humanoid Underground Dwellers, I believe is what it stands for.
Daniel Stern's in that.
Yeah, Daniel Stern is in that. It's funny to see people's progression from a crap movie to a great one.
Chud being the great one?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
This movie came out before Terminator 2. The scene where we have the water tentacle is one of the earliest uses of CGI. That was Industrial Light and Magic that did that.
Yes.
I guess they had filmed that scene first.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They had filmed that scene first because it was going to take a really long time to get it going. Okay. And so Industrial Light and Magic were working on that the whole time they were filming the movie. And then they had to delay the movie about a month because they needed to finish that scene up.
Wow.
And that was super impressive back in the day. I still think it actually looks okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think it looks bad.
It doesn't look... It'd look better today, but not much, I don't think.
No, I feel.
That would be... What would you think if you saw a giant alien water tentacle coming at you?
I don't think I'd be able to just sit there and look at it and wait. I think I'd probably run away from it.
I think I would grab a plant.
I wrote that down, that the guy grabs the nearest thing, he grabbed a plant.
Yeah, he was so shocked by what was going on, he just grabbed whatever was next to him. It was a little potted plant.
Yeah, which, how's that thing getting any light?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie had a lot of great moments to it. Do you have any criticisms of the movie?
Well, it's like the alien design, it's interesting, but yet when they showed the close-up of it, it didn't look very...
As good?
Yeah. Yeah, like, for some reason, I thought the head looked really small. Like, it looked like it was, like, almost...
That's Alien.
It was, no, like, it looked like it was, like, this big.
It probably was, like, a miniature.
Yeah, so, like, you could just tell the scale wasn't very good, like, I don't know.
There's something, like, maybe with the hands, where, like, they looked a little bit jerky, like, you can tell it was robotic or puppetry.
Yeah.
When the rest of the movie, everything else was effects.
Yeah, for sure. Why didn't the one SEAL or whatever they were that kind of sided with them, why didn't he go down to disarm the nuke?
He was injured too. I can't remember what, though.
Okay, he was injured?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I also don't know how... Well, he seemed more like a scientist than a SEAL to me, though, didn't he? Because he was the one handling...
Well, maybe that was his specialty.
Yeah, he was the one that was handling the fluidic breathing system, liquid, and all that stuff.
That's true, yeah.
So I think he was more of a... I'll stay here and tell you how to do it type of guy.
Okay.
Well, if he was a SEAL, he should be trained to do it too.
Right, but like you said, maybe he was injured. But
I don't think they exactly trusted that guy right away.
Right. I mean, I think he eventually kind of saw that, Coffee is lost it,
Yeah. I don't understand why the other guy didn't turn on Coffee right away too. Like, I guess just following orders, but at a certain point, you gotta be like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We need to calm down here, because Coffee was getting pretty crazy.
Yeah. Okay, and how stupid was it to try to reach for the gun first? You should have just hit him with the pipe. Or the wrench, or whatever that was. Like, because, he's almost on him, and then he sees the gun, and he's like, well...
Maybe he was thinking if he got the gun, he wouldn't have to hit him. And if you hit him with that pipe, you probably would have killed him, too.
Yeah, I don't know. I just... At that point, when the guy's basically threatening to kill people, just hit him.
Yeah.
To me. I would have killed the guy with the pipe in the observatory.
So one of the other big scenes in this movie is where he's dropping down. They give him the fluidic breathing.
Yes.
And he's going down to basically get the nuke.
Mm-hmm.
They had programmed a little rover to go down and check out what was in this trench.
Yeah.
Because at this point, they all knew something weird was down there.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee thinks it's the Russians because he's nuts.
Right.
The rest of them all know it's something
he
else.
But eventually he had to have known it wasn't the Russians when he saw the water tentacle. He's the one that slammed the door on it.
But he still thought it was whatever it was because he was concerned because it went for the nuke.
Right, but I'm just saying he had to have known at that point it wasn't Russians that developed the technology to control water.
Probably.
But yeah, he was still just crazy enough to... I don't care who it is, someone's going after this nuke, so, whatever.
They were theorizing in the movie about where these things came from, whether they had always been down there or whether they were from somewhere else. Thinks they're from somewhere else that has similar conditions.
Yeah.
Did you have any theories?
Space.
Or did you want to go with her?
I considered it space.
Yeah.
To be, which is also interesting to think that basically it's I'm assuming a water-dwelling alien from another world.
I kind of like to think that there's something that was already down there.
Really? Okay.
I think that's more fun to think of it that way. You don't always have to go along with what the movie tells you.
No.
Particularly when they're just guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that'd be a lot more fun of an idea that there is like an underwater civilization. Supposedly we know less about the ocean than we do out space. So, I mean, if there was something down there, we would never know about it.
Like, as if their ship is almost like what sailors back in the day thought was Atlantis or something.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of a real thing, too, like in the world of UFOs and stuff. Underwater UFOs, they call them USOs. And that's underwater submerged, unidentified submerged object.
Okay.
And I guess there's a long history of people seeing, like, strange lights and stuff under the water. Supposedly, Christopher Columbus saw some strange lights before he got to America. Anyway, they're next to a trench which is super deep. Nobody can get down there except for Ed Harris. He's the only one. Thanks to this fluidic breathing. He goes down there because Coffee had tied a nuke to the rover that they had programmed to go down there.
Right.
Which, originally, they just wanted it to get some video to show Coffee, like, hey, this is not a threat. Like, this is something else. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
Like, let's not freak out. But, he once he found out it was going down there, he tied the nuke to it and sent it off. So they try and stop it. It goes down there. They send Ed Harris down there to try and stop it. I don't exactly understand that logic. Like, I would have think, like, if it... One, had it gone down there, it would have already been too late.
It should have detonated?
Two, if whatever was down there had the technology to do everything it was doing...
Why didn't they just...
like, a missile would have hurt it?
Well, and also they were clearly inspecting it when they sent the water tentacle through, so why wouldn't they just disarm it themselves?
I guess maybe at that point you might be afraid of being hostile towards these things. Like, what would they do to retaliate?
No, I'm saying, like, why... The aliens knew it was a nuke. They knew it was something with great destructive power. Why didn't they disarm it themselves? Like, once it came down to their area... And
maybe the water tentacle was about to, and then he slammed the door on it and it disappeared.
Right, but I'm saying when the little drone thing took the missile down there and clearly it didn't detonate, was it on a timer? I can't remember that part either. I'm saying the aliens, I'm assuming, knew it was there. Why didn't they just disarm it right then?
I think it was on a timer.
Okay, but still, why wouldn't they disarm it themselves?
Maybe they weren't worried about it. Like, if it had gone off, they can control water. Maybe they could contain it somehow.
Okay.
So they take him into their ship after he disarms the bomb.
Yeah.
And you get to meet the aliens down there. The scene where it's taking them to their ship looked kind of funny, like it was flying with them almost.
Yeah.
Well, real quick before we talk about that, the look of the other stuff that we saw first, like not that angel-looking alien, but the ones that may not have been aliens, they may have just been drones, but they also seemed kind of like they were alive too.
Well, yeah, when she touches it, I think it like flexed a little bit, like it. Remember when she ran her hand into it?
Well, it almost seemed like it was made out of water, too, like, because it kind of seemed like it was rippling.
Yeah, exactly, like, almost like flesh.
And they looked a lot like jellyfish, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of inspiration on that, yeah.
But, like, still on the inside, you could see stuff moving around, almost like mechanical parts. But it still looked jellyfish, because you can see jellyfish with lights on the inside and moving around and stuff. So it was a really cool way to do that. They almost looked like they were living ships or something to me.
Yeah. Biomechanical.
Yeah, like they weren't quite the aliens. They were more like something the alien was controlling, or maybe like a pet. I have no idea. Something where they can control and like see what's.
I mean, I still mostly took it as their version of a machine, but
yeah, that's how I was thinking of it too.
But yeah.
So they get down to that UFO, which is huge. And it's like a little city almost. It looked really cool.
How did their rig get on top of it? Like, as it was coming up, though.
It doesn't make sense.
Like, how did it get moved?
I guess it kind of... They would have had to have kind of scooped it up because...
Yeah.
Here's the rig up here, sitting on a cliff.
ground, yeah.
Like, the cliff goes way down, so if it's coming up, it's going to miss the rig.
Right. Unless they said, hey, we're going to pick up your peeps, and they like use their water, which they can control, to push the rig over.
That's what has to have happened, yeah. They take him down there. He's out of oxygen. He's about to die, but he makes it, and they create this little thing for him. That scene was cool, too, where the water was separating, and he could, like... Remind me of the Ten Commandments.
Yes.
He's sitting in that little air bubble.
Yeah.
I think it's funny that they knew English and could type to him and show him television through the water. I don't think it's funny and like, oh, they couldn't do that way. I just think it's funny.
Well, I'm assuming they don't have vocal cords, or at least vocal cords like we do. But plus, also the fact he couldn't communicate audibly through the liquid air. Right. So maybe they couldn't either?
Yeah. Yeah, it was just, it was interesting.
I know what you mean, though, yeah.
They start showing them, like, this is where we get to the cheesy ending, in my opinion.
Well, did it get a little too political for a minute there to you?
Yeah.
I feel like, I don't know if it's, maybe this was the first to do it.
No.
But I feel like there's been, The Day the Earth Stood Still, okay, that comes to mind. But there's been a lot of movies, I feel like, where aliens come and they feel that we are not worthy to have life, so they're going to either teach us a lesson or just wipe us. Like, I feel like that's been done to death. That part kind of, it's like, okay.
James Cameron's a great director. He can make some beautiful movies. I wouldn't call him the most original guy.
Okay.
In certain ways. You know, with the Avatar movies, he kind of, there's some themes borrowed from other movies. Titanic was a good movie. Mm-hmm. It was the best movie about the Titanic, but if you go back and you watch, like, all the other Titanic movies, there are scenes that look exactly the same. I mean, how different could it be? But, like, shot for shot, like, they're exactly the same. It was so weird looking. Like, I've seen a mashup of it where they'd show an old Titanic movie next to Titanic, and the exact same things would happen. Okay. And I don't know if it was, how much of it was coincidence and how much was it, like, maybe him doing research got some of those images stuck in his head. But, yeah, the ending's a little cheesy. It has, you know, man is your own worst enemy. We're going to blow ourselves up. We better calm down type of message to it. I can appreciate what they're going for. At the same time, like, they've been trying to get us to be peaceful through the use of movies since the beginning of movies, and it's not working. Just stop it.
Do you think it's funny the first word he says to them is, howdy?
Howdy.
I thought that was kind of funny because it didn't seem very... I never took him as a more southern guy.
Well, I say it. I say it all the time.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't.
Howdy, Josh. So,
hi.
How y'all doing?
I thought it was pretty good that the first 45 minutes were actually pretty fast-paced. That was like, you know, going down there, we're getting to the sub. Like, I liked that it seemed like to move pretty quick within the first 45 minutes I was watching it. I was like, wow.
It just kind of slowed down a little, but at the same time, it'll keep your attention.
No, yeah, I'm not criticizing.
I wish it was just a tiny bit shorter.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem watching a long movie. I just think you should avoid having a long movie if you can.
Right.
There was a lot going on in that movie, though, because they had several different plots all leading to the same endpoint here. You had the submarine going down. You had the problem with the Navy SEALs. You had the problem with the hurricane. You had the problem when they became unattached from the ship. Mm-hmm. Then you had a problem with the nukes.
Wouldn't that cut their power if the
I think that was literally just to, like, keep them in the ship and communications and all that.
Yeah, I see. I thought that was like maybe giving them actual like.
I'm sure they had tons of air tanks and stuff on there.
Well, not so much air. I thought it was like electricity just to have the lights on and just to have, you know, things.
I imagine they would have had generators too down there.
I like and appreciate the camaraderie of the crew.
If you can get past them all having nicknames, then yeah.
What do you mean, Brango?
Okay, Jet. So yeah. You know, the end of the movie gets a little bit preachy. It's the Cold War. Same Cold War message we've always had. This is actually towards the hottest part of the Cold War, you know, the mid-'80s. This movie came out in 89. They were probably working on it for a year or two ahead of time.
Right, yeah.
But, you know, 2 years later, Soviet Union was crushed. So, you know, that was all over with, thankfully, with nobody firing a shot. But everybody was afraid back in the 80s, you know, it's going to be World War III, everything was going to blow up. The huge tidal waves I thought were pretty sweet. I always enjoy that visual of, like, you know, here's New York City or Los Angeles or whatever, and the wave is bigger than the tallest skyscraper.
course, now you like that 2012, and there's the Day the Earth Stood Still. I think they kind of did all that again. Now it's, I mean, I'm sure at that time, like we said, with the effects, they were pretty cutting edge. It would be a little old news, like
Yeah.
we've seen it all before. I thought that Michael Biehn did really well with Coffee. He was scary, and like the part where he's listening into them, like he's got that video monitor, he's like listening to them talk. It's like just you're seeing the gears in his head turn, like while he did it very well. And it's funny, like I have this thing, if you're looking at me right now, I have to touch my face. I do have to like rub my eyes and stuff. I would not be able to do like where I couldn't touch my face because there's a piece of glass or whatever that is. That would bother me. Like in the suit, whether it's for a movie like them or whether it's actually doing a job like that.
Yeah, I was putting myself in their position quite often throughout the movie. I couldn't do like any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no problems with water. I don't like the idea of being trapped underwater.
Right.
I love being on a boat, but like I said, like, if you're in a room and water's running in and you can't get out, that would just be one of the worst feelings in the world.
No, for sure. Yeah.
And like even like I can identify with Jammer. I can identify with Jammer, dude. Like if I went into that submarine and I'm already kind of on edge as it is, and I see bodies floating around and crabs flying out of their mouth, no way.
I wondered when I saw that. I was like, man, how did they pull that off? Because it looks like a real guy.
It did look real. I assumed it was a wax figure or something. Mm-hmm. I did not know it was a real guy. Kudos to him for getting a live crab in his mouth.
So yeah, he had to hold his breath, get 15 feet underwater, have a crab in his mouth, not blink when they open the door.
Have you ever been that deep underwater?
I doubt it. I don't think so.
I've been in when I was in middle school. We had an Olympic-sized swimming pool there, and we had a swim class. And one of my favorite things to do was dive. And the deep end was pretty deep. I want to say it was at least 12 feet. And I remember getting pretty close to the bottom at times, and I could feel it in my ears. Like I better come back up, or they're gonna pop. I can't imagine being 15 feet or even further down.
And just having your eyes open, just float around, or like when they came in, obviously they would push people around, or to get them out of the way or whatever they needed. Yeah, that does seem pretty tough.
I imagine that the crab probably had whatever pincers or whatever taped off.
I couldn't find any information on that, but
speaking of holding your breath. Do you ever hold your breath along with an actor?
I don't think so.
I find myself, in movies or TV shows where everybody has to go underwater for anything, but they got to hold their breath to do it. I'll take a deep breath and see if I can hold my breath with them to see how realistic it is.
Okay.
And I'm sure, if you're already breathing deep and, you get a couple of deep breaths and you can hold it longer, and I'm just sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
But I tend to do that.
Oh.
If anybody out there does that too, let me know. Or am I just a weirdo?
Well, we definitely know you're a weirdo.
Well, am I just a weirdo? When they showed Ed Harris all the stuff on the basically television screen, why are you guys doing this? And then they show him Hitler and everything else. Yeah. They're giving Ed Harris the message. Yeah. You guys are screwed. Look at what you're doing to yourselves.
Yeah.
And they show all these terrible things. Some of it was pretty graphic, I think, actually.
Yeah, Brittany actually said real. She goes, yeah, is that all real? I go, yeah.
Yeah, so I was thinking to myself, even with those giant tidal waves and them covering it on the news,
how did the worldwide get the point?
Yeah, the world isn't exactly going to get the message. All they're going to know is that something really weird happened. Some scientists will try and explain it somehow. The only people that know the message are the people underwater.
The ships that saw but when the ship comes up to the surface.
And then it came up to surface, but most of those ships that were on top of it when it came up, because it's so huge, were military ships. Yeah. I think only one was the rig. So...
Well, they show the one ship, actually, it was weird. It looked like two ships, and it had like a bridge, the platform going in between them.
Yeah, there's probably a military ship, like an aircraft
And then carrier. There was the one that actually kind of fell over.
So the military, this rigging crew, and that's it. They're the only ones that know the truth.
Yeah, I guess. As long as they can keep other ships.
Military is going to cover that up.
Yeah.
They're going to threaten the rigging crew to keep quiet or put a bullet in their head. Then what?
Unless the aliens decide to make themselves public to everybody.
Well, what I was thinking was they had those giant tidal waves.
Just because they came up there doesn't mean they just sat. Like they could have.
Yeah.
Eventually got out and went somewhere and did.
What if when they came up and all the ships were still on there, they just kept going?
Yeah.
So yeah, they had those giant tidal waves. Why not use those as the television screens?
See, I don't know if it was actually the water they were using to show him stuff, or if there just happened to be like a screen.
I imagine that they were able to project through the water.
Okay.
Like, whatever images they wanted.
I mean, they could have done that, but by the end, it's like sometimes certain movies, they don't tie all the knots for me, and I feel like kind of gypped. But like with this, I almost feel like at that point, do we really need to see now everyone looking up and seeing these big images like, hey, you guys are killing yourself, you need to straighten this up, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. At that point, it was like, okay, it's good enough. You realize Ed Harris got it, surely the rest of us are going to get it, It was just taking too long, and
I understand it was a scary time.
Spoon-fed everything to the audience,
Yeah, I understand for a lot of people it was a scary time in history. Like, current world events. We have North Korea being a little crazy right now, and they finally have supposedly the ability to hit us with something. I think about that now. Like, I'll wake up every now and then, and I'm like, I don't want to hear any bad news, or nothing's happened yet, and they don't think anything will anytime in the near future. Cross your fingers. But like, I can understand people being afraid back then, especially with as tense as everything was back then. Right. Russia, the Soviet Union, was in a way better spot than North Korea ever will be. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was a scary time. But I don't want people preaching at me.
Yeah, that last few seconds was very heavy.
Yeah. But I've always considered it a classic movie. In a way, I almost feel like it's a forgotten classic.
Yeah, I don't hear too many people talk about it too much.
Yeah, it seems to be a little bit out there, and it used to, like, it's one of the better sci-fi movies that's come out in the past, 3 decades? Mm-hmm. 4 decades?
Yeah.
It made money after critics saw the director's cut. It got huge critical acclaim. Mm-hmm. Special effects were groundbreaking.
A lot of miniature work. There was a few I could tell was rear projection.
Like the ship, when it came up, it was a miniature?
Well, I think some of them you can just tell were miniatures. I don't know, like
I thought that the spaceship, even though I knew it was a miniature, actually looked really good.
No, yeah, that looked pretty good. I'm not even saying anything that I could tell was miniature looked bad. I'm just saying I could tell certain things were miniature. But I
appreciate physical work like that, working with things. So, like, even if sometimes I can kind of tell, I'll appreciate it. Other times it annoys me. Like, there's a James Bond movie. James Bond has a history of using miniatures with things. One of them, and everybody, it's one of the more well-liked James Bond movies, but, like, part of the reason that I can't get into it is because the miniatures look so bad to me.
Which one is it?
That one is The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay.
It's a Roger Moore movie.
Okay.
It's the first one to feature Richard Kiel as the character Jaws.
Okay.
It's an okay movie, but there's parts of it that just take me out. One of the things is the miniatures.
Okay.
But in this movie, there wasn't anything that really took me out of it. The aliens looked a little bit janky when they were moving around. But most everything looked good still, just not great. Like, when it came out, it was amazing.
Sure.
I would say it still holds up enough to where you could probably take somebody who's interested in such things.
Yeah.
Back and watch it. Like, if you know a kid, a teenager, or whatever, that's interested in sci-fi or dramas or whatever.
No, yeah, it definitely has enough of all those things to.
I would not recommend it to anybody with no attention span.
Yeah.
Just for the length alone.
Right.
A lot of the movie is tension based on the situation, and there isn't necessarily a lot going on as far as the camera zipping around or explosions or chase scenes. It's a lot of tension, a lot of human drama. Yeah, so I almost feel like it's a forgotten classic in a way. Are you ready to give it a grade?
For me, it's one of those movies. Again, I saw it. I would guess it's been over 10 years ago. I saw it on TV. Obviously, I watched it again, and I liked it. But it's one of those movies I could probably go several years without watching it again.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's some movies you can watch over and over again within a short period of time.
And it's not just the length of it. I don't know. It's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, and I did enjoy it, but I could be fine not seeing it. If it was 15 years down the road, that'd be fine with me.
Yeah, I'm fine with long breaks between the movie.
Yeah.
It's one that I'll always have access to in some fashion or another, either owning it on DVD or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think all the leads did good. I think all the effects were good. I think, the effects still hold up very well.
I think maybe part of the reason that maybe today it doesn't get as much attention as it might deserve is because there's no sequels. It's not part of a franchise. Jurassic Park was great. How often would we bring it up if there weren't 2, 3 Jurassic World?
Really? See, I almost feel like with that one, Jurassic Park could have been a standalone movie, and I would still have loved it.
Maybe Jurassic Park's a bad example because, like this movie,
okay,
it was even more groundbreaking.
The Incredibles. They're finally now they're going to do a sequel, but up until this point, it's the one and only. Mm-hmm. Have you seen The Incredibles?
No.
It's fantastic.
CG. That's the movie about basically Fantastic Four family.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but it's a really great movie. They're finally going to do a sequel, but again, it stood 15 years. I don't know. It's been able to stand just fine on its own 2 feet without anything else. I'm excited that they're finally decided to do a sequel to it, but it didn't need a sequel necessarily, and it.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, I don't feel like this one needs a sequel. Like, what could you do?
Kind of like Edge of Tomorrow.
Are they doing a sequel to that?
No, but the point being that it's a one-off movie, doesn't need a sequel.
There's not enough of those anymore.
No, everything has to be a big franchise now.
I don't want to say Marvel ruined everything. I just want to say greed.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel created a formula with it. I think it's always been around, but Marvel really, for lack of a better word, almost perfected it. And
yeah, once you start making movies that are bringing in, billions of dollars, people are going to start copying you. So now, everything is going to be part of some big series.
Technically, I hear there's a sequel for it.
Well, I think
in the works. I haven't seen it, but
I know that what I heard about that one is the original was a miniseries.
Correct.
It was a 2-part miniseries on television. It wasn't a theatrical release. Part 1 was the kids' story. Part 2 was them as adults. So okay. I'm sure that's what they're going to be going for. I think this one was all the kids.
Yeah, I don't even know.
I've heard some pretty crazy stuff. I never read the book. Have you read the book?
I haven't, no.
I heard some stuff about the book that kind of shocked me.
Oh.
Yeah, check out the book and how it ends, or at least the kid's story. It's not exactly... Stephen King is weird.
Yeah.
He's weirder than you think.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, if I had to grade this movie, back in the day I probably would have gave it an A+ or an A. Mm-hmm. I think watching it now I'd give it a B+.
Okay. I was thinking about it, because, usually I have my letter grade picked out beforehand, and this one I didn't. I was thinking, okay, I'm hovering right between a C+ and a B-, but I think in the end I'm going to lean toward a B+.
Okay, we agree again. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a classic, I think, as far as sci-fi.
Yeah, it held my interest despite how long it was, despite knowing the ending, which I surprisingly remembered a lot of the ending, but
has one of the earliest uses of full CGI.
Mm-hmm.
Special effects outside of that were all pretty decent to good.
Yeah. Good acting.
The story is good.
Story, yeah.
The acting's phenomenal in this movie. I can't state that enough. I think the acting is the best part.
Right.
Without this cast, it could have went.
Right, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot going for it. It may feel slightly outdated nowadays. In other ways, it may still hold up.
Right.
Have you ever seen a movie called Leviathan?
I've seen parts of it, and I know there's one called something 6. There's another movie. It's almost
like a ripoff.
No, it was just. I guess there was another movie that came out round about the same time. Something Star 6. Anyway, I guess they're all 3 of these movies about underwater stuff. Yeah.
Well, Leviathan is really funny because it's a B movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't have the greatest cast.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the budget was for it. It was a higher end B movie.
Yeah.
It's a similar situation, underwater type of deal.
Yeah.
They blatantly ripped off of this, Alien, and The Thing.
Okay.
You take those 3 movies and combine them, that's Leviathan. And It has one of the greatest endings ever. We'll have to check it out sometime when we watch bad
Sounds
movies.
good. Yeah.
Eventually, we're going to do some terrible movies on here
Yeah,
that
I think
are
we
fun
should
to
do
watch.
like bad movie month.
Yeah. Josh was just saying he wants to watch The Incredibles.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
At some point.
This was this one right here. This was a suggestion that we got.
I'm suggesting The Incredibles at some point.
Okay. If you have a suggestion, let us know. We would love to get some more requests. We have actually one or two more down the line. One is going to be around Christmas.
What is that one?
I don't want to spoil it for all our listeners.
Oh.
So,
Mark.
well, yeah. So yeah, stay tuned. We're going to do some more stuff. If you'd like to get in contact with us, however you are listening to the podcast now, we have links to everything. So just look.
I think so.
I don't even think we need to say it anymore. We always try and say everything. You're listening to us now. You found us. Yep. So check the links. You find a way to contact us. Yep. Best way to do that would be probably YouTube, Facebook, or email. Yeah, so whatever. We're out there. You'll find us.
Somewhere.
Thanks for listening. All right, see you later. It's a sea monster.
Scared.